Hey Dramax, welcome back. It's been a minute since doing other videos, but now we're back on the grind with episode 3 of When the Phone Rings. As I'm recording this right now, the series just wrapped up, and I've seen initial feelings about the last bit without digging into the good or bad reasonings for it. And I'm going to keep avoiding spoilers like an asteroid field until I get there. So since we got a lot to discuss this episode, let's dive right into this. So starting off the episode, we go back to when Park Sun is receiving his 10 o'clock phone call and watching it ring. His colleague checks in on him, but he doesn't respond. It seems like Park Sun is still weighing with the implication that his wife might be having an affair with this mysterious man, so he's feeling all kinds of ways about it. And at the last minute, he picks up and hangs up like we see in the last episode. The crew outside his office sees that there's a pizza that's been delivered outside the door of the office. Despite no one claiming to be the one who ordered it, they open the box and there's the explosion, which I don't know how I would have acted in this situation, but with things being how they were, I would be mighty suspicious of a pizza just randomly left on the ground and no one handing it off. That smells like trouble. So Park Sun's door is broken down from the blast of the flames and the windows to his office are blown out. Next, he wakes up in the hospital where Park Do-jae tells him not to get up, but Park Sun is not going to take any news lying down. He asks about his crew and gets the good news that no one was seriously injured, but you would think with a blast like that someone would have gotten hurt really badly or even permanently down for the count, if you know what I mean. So Park Sun asks if there was an explosion and Park Do-jae says yes, showing Park Sun the security footage of the kidnapper showing up to the building and also delivering the pizza. But before the kidnapper stops and looks at the camera and kind of gives like that that line across the neck directly into the camera, which was indicating to Park Sun's like, I'm coming after you. So upon seeing this dude, Park Sun seems like he's immediately concerned about something and he is looking for his phone. He gets confirmation from her security detail that Hong Hee-ju arrived home safely the night before. So two sides of relief are drawn from this man at this point. One for the safety of his crew and the other one for his wife and that she is safely at home. But now he's fueled and ticked the F off. He gets out of bed and is angry at the daring of the kidnapper, that this man dared to come to his office building and hurt his crew and buck up to him. Park Do-jae says that as far as they're concerned, the police doesn't know that this crime was linked to Park Sun, and that it will only be a matter of time until reporters caught wind of it. But Park Sun says that he can spin it in such a way to where he can still reveal the threat without revealing himself as the cause or the root cause of this threat. Again, it's because this is during election time. It wouldn't look good if something like this got out, especially with his dad trying to run for president. So we get back to Hong Hee-ju and her hearing all this in the news. And of course, this is what we see at the tail end of episode 2. Sure enough, the news reporters are keeping the victim vague on who it is, but still putting out that there's a legitimate threat to one of the crew. Then Bae walks in and they do the whole table and skirt grabbing thing. After that, he bridal carries her to the bed and puts her on it, where Hong Hee-ju nabs her notebook to ask him questions. First, she asks him if he's hurt, which he doesn't answer that question, instead mentioning that a man with a bomb blew up his office. It was like, how do you think I feel right now? She asks if it was the kidnapper and he says yes before swatting her notebook away, insisting on answers himself. Hong Hee-ju denies knowing who the kidnapper is, which she's correct. She has no idea who this dude is. But Park Sun leans in over her, wondering if she has no idea about who this man is, then how does he know so much about her? About how this man knows about, and to quote Park Sun, I can't do it in his voice, so give me some grace here, that this man knows even your private and intimate stories. Oh, what a line. All the while, she's panicking about if he asked about the picture, what is she gonna say? And also, she's also wondering, why is he acting this way? It's like, come on girl, I'm gonna need you to math a little quicker here. You already know that this man is already feeling all kinds of ways because he almost croaked being blown up, number one. And number two, you sent him a picture Come on, like, add it together. I need you to be a little bit quicker here. Getting back to what he has said about even your private and intimate stories, y'all, my insides were just churning. Oh my gosh, this was so good. It shows so much seductive qualities. Him talking in that low, intimate tone, his hands inching up her thigh. Then that hesitation on him, resting his hand on where her mole should be, and him not wanting to remove it. Because seeing that mole then would verify two things for him. One, his wife is connected to this kidnapper, and two, that this man is able to have an intimate part of her that Park Sun hasn't been able to get. Too much is riding on him lifting that hand, because really that's all the confirmation he needs. But he knew he wouldn't be able to handle those truths. You can tell by the indecision on his face before she pushes him off that it would have been devastating to him if he found out it was there. So Hong Hee-joo pushes him off and starts deflecting. She writes down of, what is he doing? What does the kidnapper know about her? What is Park Sun trying to check for? Like, what are they doing right now when the enemy was out there? That's pretty much like what she's indicating. Like, the enemy's out there, dude, not here. What are you trying to do? With that, Park Sun backs down, getting a call from Park Do-jae and taking it before asking for Hong Hee-joo's pardon, and also like putting down her skirt, you know, and saying like, I'm sorry if I offended you. But Hong Hee-joo is also thankful that she was able to pretty much wave him off her scent, because that was the one thing she was panicking about, that he was getting a lot closer to the truth. I'm like, well, you're giving him a little bit more ammo, so how is he supposed to react? So Park Sun goes into his office in their house, and he gets word that there's been a series of arsons in the area that the kidnapper might be tied to. Park Sun is very intuitive, and he is already suggesting that the kidnapper was either lucky or knew about the arsonist, because the arsonist has been at this for like the last few months. Park Sun was already suggesting that the kidnapper was already using this series of arsons done in the area to cover up the bombing that took place at the office. He also finds it strange that the explosion happened while he was on the phone with the kidnapper, so that seems to point out to the kidnapper having an accomplice. He also reveals that the voice call his team had recorded the night of the embassy party, which is the one that Hong Hee-joo had done, was pierced together personally by Park Sun and given to the police and to the media, giving away the real reason of what the kidnapper truly wants from him, therefore keeping his private matter under wraps. This is much to Hong Hee-joo's relief, who's listening outside his door. After this, she is seen picking up the glass from the cup she dropped upon hearing the news of the explosion. Park Sun comes out of his office and asks her to go get her phone to see if there's been any hacking activity. When she goes and gets it, he picks up the glass. He scolds her though, because he calls her being careless, but indicating that since she makes a living with her hands, she can't really risk them being injured at all. So after he takes the phone, Hong Hee-joo goes to the kidnapper's phone to delete the thigh picture before turning it off and putting it back in its safe place. So next we have the scene of skeet shooting with the Hong and Park families. The men are doing the shooting while the women are sitting back in the shade. Mr. Hong, the man who Hong Hee-joo's mother is married to, tells about the upcoming candidate election and how Senior Park is looking very good in the polls, that essentially he should have this win of the presidency in the bag. And of course, we also know that Mr. Hong has been clearing out any scandals on his end, and he also had given Senior Park a really good PR team. So with that, he's looking very, very good. And there's been like an interesting set of statements coming from Mr. Hong in regarding to his quote-unquote his son-in-law, because he's wondering why with the team that Mr. Hong had amassed, the PR team that he had amassed, Senior Park isn't utilizing the most precious one next to him, which is essentially Mr. Hong's son-in-law, Park Sun. And so he says like this weird statement of, I wonder how you would use him after you hide him away or keep him hidden away or something along those lines. And there's a whole lot of question marks here. I'm like, what do you mean by hidden away? Is anything secret? Like, are we not supposed to know about things? Or does Mr. Hong know way more than he's letting on? I'm sure everybody knows. I'm sure everyone, of course he has to, because he knows all his secrets, all his scandals, so it makes sense. Senior Park, who was up there hitting his marks with the skeet shooting, he misses, which is kind of ominous a little bit. We also get more of how Park Sun had inherited a lot of his grandfather's instincts, he's very like intuitive and very, very skilled. And then you also see Senior Park's face falls whenever that is talked about. Well, I'm just like, something seems a little fishy with that. There is so much that is said in that scene, but I'm going to put it in my back pocket for my theories at the very end. So just hold tight to that. So Hong Hee-ju's mother is bored out of her mind, while Park Sun's mother has her attention on her phone, seeing the news about the kidnapper at her son's office building. Hong Hee-ju's mother looked onto Park Sun's mother's phone and tried to be nosy by offering the concerned woman tea, but his mother nudges her out the way with her elbow, and the tea just ends up burning Hong Hee-ju's mother good. Park Sun's mother doesn't even blink twice, while Senior Park is blotting Hong Hee-ju's mother's hands and blowing on it and rubbing ice on it. And he also asks his wife before she leaves, "Did you make a mistake?" She's just like, what mistake is to be made? It's like, is that she accidentally or purposely wanted to look at my phone? In other words, she's up there being nosy, and her getting burned by tea is just a small comeuppance. She needs to mind her own. Park Sun's mother just out there, because I'm sure she's like, let me go and check on my kid, see what's going on here. Now Hong Hee-ju's mother is now being coddled by Senior Park, and he is rubbing ice all over her, encouraging her to sit, blowing on her hand like a frantic lover, all the while her husband is looking on, almost as if like he's seen this a lot. You kind of get the impression that possibly that Senior Park has always had feelings for Hong Hee-ju's mother. I can't say her feelings for him is absolutely reciprocal. I'm not sure if she was playing an act during this scene or not, but it also seems like she also likes to overplay, to be like, oh, well, thank you for being so gracious, and, you know, if you weren't here, I would have said something really bad, I guess, in response to his wife. I'm like, well, you deserve so much more, but we'll get into this later. I'm not sure if she's putting on an act or if they had possibly have had an affair. Her husband doesn't say anything. He just looks on with this kind of look of just incredulous, but also like, it seems as if he's seen this kind of like thing before, and he just takes it, because they're in such a like a symbiotic situation regarding, you know, him taking care of Senior Park, covering up any of his scandals and stuff like that, and now they're also family. They're tied together by Hong Hee-ju and Park Sun. So I'm sure he's also like reaping a lot of benefits regarding like any kind of like, you know, personal detail that he can get out of Senior Park. I don't know if that's the reason why he doesn't say anything. He just lets things happen, but who's to say? Into the next scene, we see a guy who's dressed in black, wearing a hat, and he's gutting a fish at his house, which seems like it's in a remote place. He gets a text referring to the office building explosion. The person he's responding to tells him not to act alone and that there's another job for him. The dude has the same twitch and voice as the kidnapper we saw in episode 1, so we know it's him. But now we also know that there's someone else involved too, a puppet master, because when this guy texts the person back, I think the person's name is Master. So there is definitely someone else, like Park Sun had assumed. There is an accomplice. There is someone outside of the kidnapper. Now it's just a matter of who that might be. Meanwhile, Park Sun is scanning his wife's phone. He has gone and showered and went to the office again, or in, I guess, like office adjacent since the other one got blown up. And he's scanning through his wife's phone when he comes across this chat app on it. So here he does go into her phone, but he does see that she's been in correspondence with her friend Ji Sang-woo since they have ran into each other of late. And I forgot to say, in the last episode, was when he was cooking breakfast for her. He asked Hong Ki-joo if her friend was close and trustworthy, which she confirmed that he was. So in this app, Ji Sang-woo sends her a picture of old times working at the Nuri Dream Center, which we later find out is an orphanage that Ji Sang-woo had grown up in. He also spots a lunch invite from Ji Sang-woo at noon on Saturday. Saturday is that very day. And with Park Sun staring at the clock, we know what our boy is considering. Speaking of Ji Sang-woo, he's in the room with some heads from the news station in Nayuri. He tells them an intriguing childhood memory that he's had that he's never mentioned it on his own YouTube-esque channel. He had played with this masked boy when he was little who lived in this mansion, and they played together every day until he witnessed something horrible. And this child had lived in this decorated room filled with toys, but the room was in the basement. I mean, it was nicely decorated in the room itself, but it was down in the basement. And so Ji Sang-woo held everyone spellbound until his phone rings to signal that the meeting was over and he was heading to lunch, because we already know who he's trying to go to lunch with. And now for the lunch chaos. Oh my gosh. I mean, even without having all the context, you know what messy husbandry is about to transpire. But Ji Sang-woo and Hong Ki-joo are already seated. Nayuri shows up with a reservation and spots the two of them there, and she is just up and down happy. She's surprised to see them both there. She's very ecstatic and happy that she's meeting with this person, but she also asks them not to stare at her lunch guest because it might make him uncomfortable. And they were just like, what? Is she meeting with a celebrity? Like, what's up with this? So the lunch guest, who do you think it might have been? I'll give you one guess. Yes, it is Park Sun. Nayuri has been blowing up this man's phone with messages since episode 1. And her fangirl antics hasn't ceased since then. Homegirl cannot contain herself. And when he shows up, she stands up, shouts, and waves him down. And everyone in the restaurant is looking at her like she's crazy. And I'm like, girl, I get that you are meeting your crushes and people that you hold in high esteem. And a lot of that, it can make you so giddy and also act stupid. But aren't you a news anchor? Like, where's your professionalism, your decorum? Like, where is any of that? It is just out the window. And I think she's probably really kind of used here or used overall in the drama sometimes as a form of comic relief to break up all the suspense and the tension. So I think that's the reason why they have really put her in there. But I'm sitting here like, the man is married. He is married. He is already off the table. She acknowledges that he's married. She knows he's married. And yeah, it's just like, you really need to tone this down. And plus, we already know the reason why Bae is there, and it ain't for you. The reason why he's coming there is, of course, for his wife, who is mortified that he showed up. She looks away, almost as if pretending she's not there. She looks like she's trying to fade into the tablecloth, that he wouldn't also notice her. Again, who else is he here for? You, boo. And he stops right in front of her table and addresses her. Another scene later, they're all sitting at the table together. Ji Sang-woo cuts up a filet and exchanges it with Hong Ki-joo since they ordered the same food, which further disturbs Park Sun's spirit. Nayuri asks how Park Sun knows Hong Ki-joo, which he answers that she had done some interpreting at the embassy event and that he's always wanted to treat her to lunch, but so glad that he was able to run into her this way. And I think also he's always wanted to take her out to lunch but couldn't find a way to really treat her outside of, since they were supposed to keep their marriage under wraps. I'm like, that's the rules that was set, dude, and it was set by you and maybe somebody else, but it seems like it's mostly been by you. Ji Sang-woo offers Park Sun some wine, which it seems he's about to receive it, only to turn the glass down, saying he doesn't day drink. He is so messy right now. Messy and petty as if he has the right to be, and he doesn't really. Ji Sang-woo asked after Hong Ki-joo's comfort, wanted to see if she was okay and if she wanted to leave or anything like that. Park Sun asks the man if he's an interpreter, which Ji Sang-woo says no, which means that Ji Sang-woo learned sign language to communicate with Hong Ki-joo, with Park Sun's wife. Something Park Sun claims, quote unquote, he doesn't know how to do, but I think the man does. I mean, him asking if she liked the food when she tasted it and tell her friend that, I think it's a subtle hint that he knows what she's saying. Ergo, the man knows sign language. I am just calling it right now. He knows. But there's a big pissing contest between these two men. Park Sun asking what Ji Sang-woo does, which is a doctor in psychiatry, and if he's married. Ji Sang-woo asks kind of like jokingly, "Are you interested in me?" And Park Sun says, "Yes." Not in the way he thinks. He's just like, he's trying to fill him out, wanting to make sure, number one, you're not this kidnapper. Number two, why are you so close to my wife like this? And plus, like, she's taken. Even if you don't know it's to me, she's taken. This causes Hong Hee-ju to knock over her glass. Then she has to excuse herself to go to the bathroom, but not before staring down her husband with the what the hell look on her face. He's up here acting like an offended husband when, bro, you haven't been a husband to her in these last 3 years. Like I had said, if you hadn't instilled any kind of feeling in her, your petty jealousy might not be an issue. I mean, he might be still a little jealous, but at least he'd still have her feelings anchored to him somehow, and he can feel as secure as he can be. Because I'm like, if he had shown her that love before, they would have been fine. I'll also get into a series of scenes involving another part of the plot, but after Park Sun takes a call, Hong Hee-ju is waiting for him after he hangs up. She snatches the phone away from him and asks, how did he know she was there? And he asks, like, why? What all are you hiding from me? A lot, but honestly, y'all are both hiding a lot from each other, so there you go with that. Park Sun is essentially like, I don't care who he is. I'm like, yeah, you kind of do. But anyway, but what he actually does care about is that she professes to know and can pretty much vet Ji Sang-woo more than him when they've known each other for 20 years. Yes, 20 years. 2 decades. That long. So that her knowing him for that length of time has priority over the college meetup she had with Ji Sang-woo. That she should know him by now, and he thought he knew her, but he guessed wrong. I mean, you're actually right, because one, you have no idea who you've been having close to midnight chats with lately. Two, my dude, didn't you tell her 3 years ago not to get close to you or have any feelings for you? I mean, come on, my guy, think it through. You've made her feel unwelcome in this marriage, and yet you're asking for husband perks. Privilege is null and void. At this point, we don't know how long they've been knowing each other. If it was just occasionally they had seen each other, had hung around each other, was raised together, we don't know that context as of episode 3. So, getting back to the whole other series of things, Park Do-jae has been trying to get to the bottom of this arsonist thing when someone blows up a trash bin in the parking lot. Upon seeing a masked guy in black, Hongdu hustles to go after the dude and captures him. Upon talking to Park Sun suggests that the guy is the actual serial arsonist but not the true kidnapper he's been dealing with. Even the arsonist has attested that he saw a younger guy already up there watching a fire of this, I guess, like trash bin or this test run he was doing. He ended up taking out some cats. So it shows that he has really legit psychotic behavior. And so we can already attend that the dude that they're chasing isn't this arsonist guy. That was just another dude just getting his jollies off up there just blowing up things. So Hong Hee-ju gets a call into work where her boss, I'm assuming is her boss, cheers her with this official document that came from the president's office. You know, for that interpreter job that Park Sun told her about. We find out later that it was her husband that essentially sent it. At least that's my assumption, that he had sent it. He does ask about this later. Hong Hee-ju asks about how does it feel after getting a divorce. So her boss does know that she's married, but I don't know outside of family who else does. I mean, it doesn't seem like Ji Sang-woo knows. So maybe her boss at the center is the only one that she can talk to regarding this. So anyway, Hong Hee-ju admits that her husband wishes her to croak, while her boss brushes it off, saying that he didn't mean that out of malice but out of love, and that him having that great show of feeling of wanting to wish someone to shove off the moral coil, so to speak, isn't him being malicious. This is him showing a great deal of feeling towards her. If he didn't care, he wouldn't say something of that magnitude. First off, no. Second, have you ever watched Dateline? Forensic Files? Those sentiments aren't always terms of endearment, but she practically also tells Hong Hee-joo that if she's truly thinking about getting a divorce, then she needs to get this job at the president's office. If she can nail this, she can practically be guaranteed a job anywhere. And of course, the boss has no idea that the person Hong Hee-joo is trying to divorce is the same man Hong Hee-joo's been watching videos on for interpretation, also the same man who works at the president's office. So after Hong Hee-joo tries to leave after her car is retrieved from the rotating garage, which I thought was neat until this upcoming nonsense happened, the radio station in her car changes and the doors lock to where she can't get out, just like in episode 1 when someone took over her car. So the garage door closes and the car ascends back up, and of course it's dark and you just have these flashes of light, so very thriller and suspense like. And all the while when the radio station stops on HBC, which I believe is the broadcast station that Nayuri and everyone else works for. And so it stops on that station, and then this song is requested called Call Me Now, which is requested by caller 406 blah 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 blah, which is the kidnapper. So this girl is in terror as the car ascends, it rotates and descends. Once her car is back down, of course, like the security guard that she was sitting there with originally was like, oh, I thought you had left. And so she starts her car and she drives off. And I'm just like, I would not be driving this car ever again. And I don't know if anything would help, because it seems like a lot of the stuff involving technology, like anything she touches, it kind of seems like he's still there. But at the same time, Park Sun said he was going to replace her car. I'm like, you didn't replace it fast enough, because apparently this car is not safe. So Hong Hee-joo gets home, bringing out the modded phone, wonder if the kidnapper wants her to call, and if he knows she has his phone. Yes, girl. Who else would have taken it at the time? I don't think the tow truck dude would have wanted it in episode 1. All clues kind of point to you. The thing about this, before she can even think further past that, Park Sun arrives just then. He's already in the mood after seeing Ji Sung-woo's YouTube-ish channel with his views and his people, particularly women, who are just fangirling over his workout and his physique. And I'm sure he's also thinking, like, women, including my wife, that my wife is getting all hot over his physique. That's not happening on my watch. He brings back her phone and says that there's been no hacking activity detected. Hong Hee-joo snags it and hustles off. He asks her where she's going, and she says that she's going to the corner store to buy beer and ice cream. He indicates essentially that he'll get it for her by walking past her and asks her if she wants anything else. And she watches him from the window as she calls him. And as soon as he strolls around the corner, he picks up. And now their game of cat and mouse gets more interesting. Park Sun asks if 406 feels bad for messing things up. In other words, screwing up the bomb deal, because everyone is pretty much good and safe. Hong Hee-joo weaves around that issue, asking Park Sun not to drag his feet and if he's going to divorce his wife or not. Park Sun flat out asks, how does him leaving his wife benefit the kidnapper? What's the game? All Hong Hee-joo can say is that Park Sun doesn't love his wife, and what's the point of hanging on to her? So after this, the scene shifts to where they're sitting at their long table in their dining room, where she's figuratively talking to him again, kind of like she did in the car towards the end of episode 2. The table is lit almost as if some illuminating facts are coming to light, like Park Sun's realization that what the kidnapper is requesting makes zero sense to him. The table and lighting around the set with this grayish hue makes it feel more like an interrogation, because it's Park Sun leaning towards her, almost as if he's trying to lean into her to have her confess something, anything. Because the light from the table is also shining a lot of lights on the holes in her plans. Also, from the music playing in the background, did anyone else get Bridgerton OST vibes from it? Like, it really felt like some Regency dancers were about to go and twirl around them or something. I just loved it. It just struck such a Bridgerton chord with me for some reason. That's the vibe that I just got from that music. I loved it. Anyway, Park Sun is quite candid in practically saying, look, you're nothing but a crazy person resulting to kidnapping, threats, and bombing offices. But one thing you're not about to do is threaten me to give up my wife. And my wife needs me to get something. Click. Call ended. Plus, the end game I think Park Sun is still playing around with is the prospects of the kidnapper and Hong Hee-joo having an affair. And even with that, he's digging his heels in. He won't give her up without a fight. And of course, Hong Hee-joo is reeling from this on why he's doubling down on not giving her up. Because he's in love with you. And of course, it's nothing that she can see because she hasn't seen any of that. But honestly, with all his acting up that very day, I would be lighting him up with questions once he got home. Especially since I would be asking him why he's acting all possessive and like he's a jilted husband when you weren't acting this way in the past 3 years. Where did all of a sudden this came from? So after he returns with the goods, she cracks open the beer because day. He takes off his jacket and immediately says he's not divorcing her. She almost chokes on it because again, she's thinking he's found her out. But nah, he says this as a precaution in case she hears this from anyone else. But he's not going to stand for anyone to besmirch his name otherwise. Our girl rolls her eyes as she plops the beer down. Because she's hearing it's not because he's in love with her that he doesn't want to divorce, but because of his reputation. He doesn't want it to be dragged through the mud. But Hong Hee-joo doesn't realize she has some beer foam on her lip, which he swipes off, saying everything she does is clumsy. Sir, if you were in a better relationship, you would have jumped all over her and licking that off of her yourself. Anyway, Park Sun says that with the application she sent in, she'll have to do her best to stand by him at the president's office. And she's all confused, asking him why, and if her being there is something he could handle, considering her name and face will be out there. He's like, you seem confident, and our girl is like, I know there's no one better, and that she's very good at reading people, and she's able to tell what they're about to say and what they're thinking. So, what do you think our boy asked? Oh, y'all have played this game too often. Getting into our girl's space, he asked, really? So what am I thinking now? He doesn't have her guess, but he tells her that this man knows so much about their relationship that he can't discredit. That their relationship is practically one of strangers who happen to be married, even though he wishes that wasn't the case. He hates it, in fact. But again, coming from her standpoint, it's almost as if he's saying that in order to prove the kidnapper that everything wasn't true, that he wishes that their relationship was actually on good grounds, to discredit all of that, to deny any of that, to deny any flaws in their marriage, when in fact there is, and he acknowledges that. But we already know as the audience that that is not the case. Park Sun actually does wish that they were actually husband and wife in truth. But it's like, again, whose fault is that? It seems that's more your fault than hers. So after that, he goes into her room and is already in her bed under the covers with his vest divested. I find it interesting that he is in the middle of her bed with her one pillow. One pillow for that obvious bed for two. I'm not sure if it's the norm, but it almost bespeaks a solitary life status here, with no invitations for bedmates. He tells her to come lie down and he won't bite. I think that's debatable, but we'll continue. After a silent argument with switching the lights on and off, he asks her if she's afraid he'll jump her. He reassures her that if he was that type of dude, he would have done it already. Then he had the gall to ask if she was afraid she'd jump him. The look of audacity she gave that man. And Hongdu, he doubles down with a plausible and see if you can keep your hands to yourself. The manner in which she snatched that pillow away from his head made him almost snap his neck. It was hilarious. And also, it's almost like she's trying to say, you can lay in this bed, but I'll be damned if you use my pillow. She gets in and turns away from him, but he tells her, it's rude to face away from the person beside you. And so she turns and faces him. And he admits that since the kidnapper knew where his office was, most likely their house wasn't safe either. He reassures her to think of what happened when she was kidnapped as a bad dream. Also what she had heard and what she saw, including the one phrase she can't erase from her mind. So he drifts off to sleep where she studies his enviously long eyelashes and lips, girl us too, before drifting off to sleep. Park Sun awakens and withdraws from bed, letting her sleep. As he was getting out of bed, I did notice that there was a tear from Hong Hee-joo that appeared, and I'm unsure if this was due to her conflict of feelings regarding Park Sun and what he has said, or any of her past trauma, or the next scene we're about to get into, which transitions into a flashback. So it flashes back to a younger Hong Hee-joo, which I will place about 8 to 10 years old, is lying in a hospital bed with a scrape on her jawline. Her mother is crying over her, wondering what to do. Lil Hee-joo comes to and calls Mom. Oh, that crying stopped real quick. This being said questions why her own little girl wasn't hurt. She shakes her pretty much almost violently, causing Lil Hee-joo to cry. Her mother puts her hands over her mouth, telling her to be quiet. Due to some accident, some guy's daughter is deaf and his only son is no longer here. And the chairman will be upset if Hee-joo says a thing, the chairman being Park Sun's grandfather. Then this chick with the quirk of her brow has a diabolical idea. In order to garner sympathy and retain whatever place she's scared that they would lose due to this accident, either home or social status, or maybe even both, she demands her daughter, her young daughter, to sacrifice speaking for the greater good, or for her greater good. I mean, let's be real. This accident or whatever has shaken her to her core so much that Hee-joo has lost the ability to speak. And she also tells her daughter that not every life, really meaning her own daughter's, holds the same value. And then the little baby asks her mom, like, how long do I have to keep silent? How long do I have to stop talking? And her mother says, if you can even call this woman that. She tells her daughter until she turns into bubbles. In other words, sea foam. You know, like from The Little Mermaid, that's exactly what she ends up calling her. It seems like she's more pointing towards the fable version where there isn't a happy ever after for The Little Mermaid, because she does turn into sea foam, and that's the end of that. She doesn't get the prince at all. I mean, she gets to pretty much like ascend and become an angel. I think they rewrote it to where there's a little bit more of a happier ending for her, but she doesn't get the true Disney ending like we know in the Disney's version of The Little Mermaid. But seeing that and putting that into the perspective, it does give such a great parallel between our two mains' situation. The voice modulator is like the shell that Ursula wears when she bewitches and tricks Prince Eric that she is actually the woman he was looking for. Just like that shell, though, the real voice coming from it isn't the real Ariel any more than the person talking to Park Sun is the real kidnapper. So when this hypothetical shell, or in this case the phone, is broken either figuratively or literally, or even when the illusion is shattered, it makes me wonder how Prince Park Sun will react. I don't think he'll be mad, and if he is, it won't be for like a long period of time. He'll also get the truth on the reasons why all of this had occurred and why it happened. Like, the man is willing to hold on to her despite his fears regarding her possibly having an affair. His love for her will override anything rational anytime. And honestly, y'all, I swear, not all people should be parents. I want to put it out there. And if there's 9 circles of hell, Hong Hee-joo's mom needs to visit all of them on repeat after she gets there without shoes or a drop of water. I hate her. And this is just episode 3. She has already been giving massive B vibes since episode 1, but this episode cements it, especially with the deplorable way she treated her daughter. And I mean her young daughter. I'm not even talking about older Hong Hee-joo here, but this baby, she is such... The woman is selfish and evil, and using her child only as a stepping stone to better her own situation, either by keeping her handicapped or bartering her off for marriage, and Lord knows whatever else this woman has done. Her getting scalded by Park Sun's mother with tea is too light a punishment for her. I need some real comeuppance for her, like she needs to get hit by a truck. So Park Sun and the reporter are playing racquetball. So the reporter asks, and I forget what the reporter's name is, but he asks if Park Sun has heard anything regarding the picture of the wife's thigh, and if he verified if it was an affair or not. Park Sun confirms that the hypothetical man, who is him, but the reporter doesn't know that it's actually Park Sun who's asking about the picture. But the man, quote unquote, hasn't found out the truth because he doesn't want to. And like I had said earlier, that would indicate that his wife had been with another man, and he wasn't sure he could handle the truth, and that this man is now trying to off him. Even though the reporter called the hypothetical man a name, I'm not going to repeat it, and said that most normal people would dig for the truth, but he's absolutely truly would. That means that this man clearly loves his wife, which we already know that our boy does. It's already been showing in spades in this episode that he's already had long-standing love feelings for her. Now to get to another part that made me angry. So a nurse rolls out Hong Hee-ju's dad to take him on, I guess, like this little stroll and stuff for some fresh air. And then she asks where was her head for not bringing a blanket, and leaves the man unattended. First off, fire her. Second off, fire her. Apparently, your mind was nowhere in South Korea to think this was a good idea, but leaving your mentally incapacitated charge alone. She's acting as if she was walking him all the way to Busan. But her being brainless and too comfortable comes at an unfortunate time, because guess who decides to show up? Yes, Mr. Kidnapper, with his job he has to do now, swoops in and he wheels Dad off. Now, the kidnapper is maskless, which means that now we can see what he actually looks like. He has two-tone eyes, one dark brown and one light brown, and a burn patch behind his ear. And the camera does deliberately fix on these spots so you know that they're important. And he has tics and twitches too, so some nerves aren't wired right, and that is in more than one way. Hong Hee-ju gets a video call from her dad, or the kidnapper using her dad's phone. The kidnapper sings songs to the word Ania, or sis, that translates to sis. That alone would make me want to pack up and leave South Korea. Are you kidding me? I couldn't deal with it. He asked for the whereabouts of his phone and if she's been using it to threaten Park Sun, and what has she been trying to get out of it. She tells him a divorce. Home dude cackles with laughter, and he's like, oh, from that night? Yeah, I'll be mad too. The thing about this is that you can't fault her for that. Of course, she's terrified over, wanting to make sure that her dad is okay. But on the same token, she's just like, it's sad that a complete stranger, a complete crazy stranger, also knows that my marriage not exactly the best right now. So the kidnapper is like, cool sis, I like you. You have the same goals as us. Not me, but us, meaning his puppet master in the background. He charges her to keep calling Park Sun with no backing out. He also shows her a handkerchief full of bloody teeth, indicating that he got that from her dad. So she has to continue on with these phone calls, or her dad would be in further danger before the kidnapper hangs up on her. So she races to the assisted living place, where she sees her dad has been returned and that he's unharmed. And so the police officers show her the bag of teeth, but it looks like the bag of teeth, from what they were confirming, did not come from him. It came from someone else. Her father wakes out of his sedated state and he speaks, saying, Call him, sis. Hong Hee-ju gets weak in the knees from hearing that, and so did I. Oh my god, I remember yelling out loud a whole lot of no, when I heard that. It's such a very haunting refrain, and now she knows she has to keep doing this to keep her dad safe. And plus, honestly, like I said, it's time to move him to another home. If it was me, I've been like, okay, screw it. We're going to Japan. We're going to Switzerland. We're going somewhere. We have to get out of here. It's like, forget this marriage. Forget my mother, any family ties. And like, none of this has really served me at all anyway. I'm like, I'm leaving in a new, fresh start. Y'all can have all of this. If you want to take out my husband, fine, whatever. I'm leaving here with my dad. I know she would do that if she had the means, but unfortunately, that's just not where she's at. She's just trapped in all of this. So when she goes and leaves with the police, she's in the back of the police car, and she's going with them to the police station so she can go and make a statement. And the police radio, in the meantime, starts changing automatically and has like an error message on it. And it seems like this is the kidnapper's doing. And it's given her such a massive panic attack to the point where she's starting to feel sick. The police car pulls over to let her dry heave or cough up or whatever. And Hong Hee-ju starts crying. Because she is so frustrated that all her life, no one has been in her corner and she has always suffered. She's really been suffering for just existing. Her mother has been negligent, self-important, using her for her own means, for her own security. She's always been a tool for everything else. She's married to a man who could care less about her. And like, her dad is suffering now. Her dad is in danger, when she's like, the only thing she ever wanted in life was to be free to do her own life choices. And she's prohibited from doing even that. And it's almost like, she's also feeling probably like somewhat guilty because of her picking up that phone and continuing on with this charade. She has also since, gotten her dad into trouble, which I'm like, you can't really blame yourself all the way for that, because they would have found other means to threaten your father. If there's a will, there's a way. And it seems like they're determined to take down Park Sun. And so they would use any other means to threaten Park Sun. If they also knew that Park Sun had massively huge feelings for her, which I'm sure they'll start seeing lately, they would do other means to attack him. That might be by attacking you or attacking your father or whatever. So yeah, the thing about this was like, no matter what the circumstances were, I think they honestly would have gone after her dad regardless. And the thing about this is like, she didn't even get the side of that from the kidnapper. She was also getting threats from her mom doing the same thing. If she didn't fall in line by doing all the wifely responsibility she was supposed to provide towards Park Sun. And so really, she was in a lose-lose situation all the way around. While she's breaking down and crying on the side of the road, and the police officers are trying to comfort her and make sure she's okay, there were about 3 motorcycle cops driving along the road, and a car is behind them. So who's in this car? Y'all already know. It's Park Sun, who has already gotten word that something had happened with her dad. The police she's with are awestruck because they know who he is. He's the spokesperson for the president, so he's of big prominence. Park Sun offers to make a report at the police station later. He'll go ahead and take care of her. And they ask, what's your relationship to her? And he says, we're family. Not to be like Olive Garden or Fast and Furious or anything like that, but that's essentially what he says. And then after he eases her up to a standing position, he then tells them she's my wife, which floors her. And he even has this look of, I dare you to dispute it. Because it's true. We are married. That was the reach around, I guess, for their agreement. Because remember in episode 1, the vows she had to sign. Number 1, she couldn't initiate divorce. Number 2, she couldn't do it during an election year. Number 3, she couldn't disclose. She couldn't disclose that she was his wife. But he could. There's the fine print. So, and I guess also because the circumstances are also starting to get a little higher and stuff. I think that's the reason why he probably also said it. But he also could tell them, like, if you don't mind, be a little discreet. Probably in episode 4, be discreet. Don't disclose this to anyone that, she is my wife. But this is the reason why. I'm not sure if they will be more comfortable in episode 4 and start broadcasting all of this or not. It's yet to be seen. But essentially, this is the end of episode 3. And I have to tell y'all, when he did say that with his full chest of finally confirming out loud that she's my wife, I screamed so much that I had to say sorry to my husband. I had to say it. But honestly, I wasn't sorry about it. It was worth it that he's finally doing something he should have done ages ago. And he finally put some respect on her name. He gave her that title of wife. Episode 3 was so good. And even with this episode, we have even more mysteries and more things that got filled in with blanks. We now know how and why Hong Hee-ju never talks but learned how is because of her trifling mother. So it's nice to have like all of that filled in, but that woman better get some comeuppance. I'm telling you, come on truck, run her over. I will have zero regrets. I mean, maybe they might turn around in the later half, but who cares at this rate? She can go on to her cakewalk in hell for right now. So let me get into my theories. I know I'm already running long, but this was an episode, and I know there's more coming. So, theory off the gate. I honestly think Park Sun is a replacement kid. In other words, he's some random orphan kid that they nabbed, or maybe he's an affair baby. Because Hong Ye-ju's evil mom says that the son is quote-unquote gone. She doesn't say those words, but he is unalived. Okay? So, I think this is the child that Park Sun, our current Park Sun, replaced. Because they have to keep up with the family line, especially through men. It's really important, especially in Asian cultures, to do so. It reminds me of a couple of dramas, actually. And one of them I don't know the name of. And this is the one that my bestie had told me about from like a couple years ago or so. And it's pretty much like a Nuna romance drama where the male lead and his sibling, I think it was a sister, they were orphans, and the female lead's family looked down on them for not having any parents. And I think I had read somewhere in the past is that they believe that the parents dying like that, or dying period, is bad luck, and they don't want any of that bad luck to transfer to their family line. So that's also why you get in the episode, Ji Sang-woo had mentioned him growing up as an orphan to that news group that he was meeting when he was trying to pitch a new unsolved case, or the unsolved case he's always been wondering about. And he kind of bucked a little bit, almost as if he was asking to see if that was such a bad thing, where, everyone was like, oh, no, nothing bad about that. So it seems like, being an orphan of sorts is still a very taboo thing. Another series this kind of reminds me of, and this is spoilers to a little bit, and it's involving one of the characters in this drama called Love is Sweet, a C-drama. And in that drama, one of the characters was adopted by this family as a little boy to replace the original son they had lost. And I mean, they had him assume the name of the son and had this little boy forget his past self. He was this son of this name from here on out. His previous self did not matter. So when I watched this episode, that's exactly what this reminded me of. After all, the chairman, or Park Sun's grandfather, was a huge influence, and Park Sr. is trying to be the same with running for president. But you can tell how he feels about Park Sun considering the face that he made. It's kind of giving a little bit of just like, this isn't really my kid kind of face. Plus, I think the kidnapper is the real son that's unalive. I think he's the real Park Sun. That's just my feeling, but I can be proven wrong. Now, the little boy that Ji Sang-woo played with, I would assume is the Park Sun we know now, or it could be also the kidnapper as a little boy. Still unsure there, but I don't think the other person who's the puppet master is Ji Sang-woo at all at this juncture. I think because he's still too invested in wanting to solve the mystery of whatever had happened years ago, so I don't think it's him. It might actually be Ina, who we haven't seen at all, or someone else that hasn't shown up yet. There's still 9 episodes to go, and I haven't seen the previews for the next episode, so I want to go in as fresh as I can. But I'm beyond excited for this. So, sorry for running so long, but this episode is giving me the feels, the chills, and the thrills that I have to share. But please, like and subscribe. Stay a while. Let me know what your impressions have been on these first 3 episodes. I've given you mine, but hey, it's just a thought.